who are the people? You often see some people who appear to be Haredi or Hasidic, and they, Jews against Israel, Jews against Zionism. They'll be holding placards and things.
So Satmar occasionally protests against Israel. So you might see them outside of the Israeli embassy in London protesting against Israel. However, as a matter of policy, they don't protest alongside non-Jewish anti-Israel protesters. So they won't you won't find them in pro-Palestine marches. Mm-hmm. In fact, there's a saying attributed to the Satmar Rebbe. I can't vouch for its veracity, but I think the sentiment shows some truth either way. So the saying attributed is that he said, a Jew is obligated to be anti-Zionist, but a non-Jewish anti-Zionist is just an anti-Semite.
Wow.
So now, I don't know if this is true, but the sentiment is we are against Israel for specific religious reasons, whereas other people who are against Israel, who don't share these religious concerns, maybe they're just anti-Semitic, right? So the point of this saying is Satmar doesn't align with all kinds of anti-Israel protesters. They have their specific issues with Israel, and those are that they protest about. You will not find them in pro-Palestine marches. Now, there is a small group of people who you can find on pro-Palestine marches. These are not Satmar, they are called Neturei Karta. Neturei Karta is Aramaic, Judeo-Aramaic, for guardians of the city being Jerusalem. They are you can call them a radical branch off of Satmar, who have taken the anti-Zionism to the level where they'll ally themselves with anyone who is against Israel, including the Iranian regime, including meeting up with leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah and so on. So these are people who you can find at pro-Palestine marches as kind of Jews that look like Hasidic Jews, and they are Hasidic Jews, but they're not Satmar, they're Neturei Karta. And it's a very, very small group. So if you watch carefully all the videos on which they appear, because pro-Palestine people like to have lots of videos and photos of them to show, look at these very Jewish-looking people who are with us.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. It's like a pawn in their
yes.
game.
So if you check all the videos, it's the same 5 people appearing in all of them. It's really a tiny, tiny group. Worldwide, we're talking about maybe 2,000 adults worldwide. And in London, it's a handful, a dozen. And they are, they are quite marginalized in the Jewish community. They are considered often beyond the pale. Even many Hasidic synagogues won't allow these people to enter the synagogue, mainly for buddying up with people who are clearly anti-Semitic, like people in the Iranian regime. They attended, I don't know the details about it, so listeners should look this up, but they attended an Iranian Holocaust conference a few years ago, which apparently had the intention of kind of minimizing or belittling the Holocaust, or at least pointing out how the Holocaust is weaponized in pro-Israel arguments. And they attended that conference, which for many in the Jewish community, including in the Satmar community, the staunchly anti-Zionist Satmar community, for many it was seen so beyond the pale that they were kind of essentially excommunicated.
Wow. And would they have been the people that, say, Jeremy Corbyn would have been sort of getting photos with?
That's broader than Neturei Karta. So that would include many people in Satmar and in the Hasidic community more widely. So the Hasidic community's view of politics has a continuity with traditional, I'm going to use a word, I'll explain the word, shtadlanut, intercession of Jewish politics in the Russian Empire. Okay, so throughout Jews' stay in medieval Christian Europe, there wasn't democracy. It was various kinds of systems they had to grapple with. And they developed a form of politics which involved intercession, shtadlanut, which basically means you have certain influential people who can speak the language of power, who maybe have money and influence, and they would intercede on behalf of the community. So it wasn't mass politics, it was like, kind of gatekeepers, appointees who will work on behalf of the community. The philosophy of that way of doing politics is basically it was a bit of bootlicking. It was buddying up to power, and we're going to be nice. We're going to we're going to support you. We're going to be loyal citizens, and you don't expel us and don't do horrible things against us, right? Obviously, in an era of mass politics and modern democracy, that's not how we do politics. We fight, we vote, we use our voice. The Hasidic community has retained elements of that kind of intercessionary politics, where the philosophy is, let's keep our heads down. We don't criticize power. We always just buddy up to power. We try and get close to the politicians and try to, not whisper into the ears in a kind of, conspiratorial way, but like try and achieve what we need for our community through being on the right side of the politician. And so the Hasidic community tends to be very careful not to criticize power and politicians, and not to be seen as being a political force with a voice. When the wider Jewish community came out very strongly against Corbyn, and there was famously, I'm sure you remember, where the 3 major Jewish newspapers came out with a cover picture,
right? Yes,
with the cover page against Corbyn.
Yeah.
The Hasidic community was very anxious about it.
I should just say, in case non-Brits, I forgot to say, Jeremy Corbyn is a left-wing leader. He was the leader of the Labour Party, the left side of British politics, and he was seen as anti-Semitic by some.
Or at least as allowing anti-Semitism to flourish in the party. The Hasidic community was very anxious about this because they saw it as basically this would give a door for anti-Semites to say that Jews have brought down the Labour Party, as indeed some do.
Yes.
Right? They don't do that kind of politics. So they came out against that and said, actually, we are very loyal to the government. We're loyal. It wasn't government; it was the leader of opposition. We're loyal. We wouldn't say that. We don't think he's anti-Semitic, and we're going to try our own ways to achieve what's important for our community. And secondly, I should say, the Hasidic community has very different needs to the wider British community, because it's not integrated in wider society in the same way. So when British Jews who are long-time Labour members were saying we don't feel comfortable in the party anymore, this wasn't a concern for Hasidic Jews who were never members of political parties or, who were never in universities, who have to, be in mainstream British institutions and feel that effect. So they have their own concerns. Their concerns are maintaining the independence of their educational institutions, which we can come back to, which do not follow kind of national curricula, and they fight very strongly to maintain that independence, and their own issues. Benefits is important for them, and so on. So they didn't see that kind of threat in Jeremy Corbyn to begin with.
There was something of a symbiotic relationship then, that Corbyn was able to use them to say, hey, how can I be an anti-Semite? These are my friends. And they were able to curry favor with him if he were to gain power and make sure that they're not on the bad side of this person.
Correct.